of managing your peace and having too much stress is getting into adrenal burnout. So our adrenal glands sit on top of our kidneys and they produce our stress hormones. And if they're constantly at work, we can get burnout of those adrenal glands, and that comes with some pretty serious symptoms. So these are some symptoms of adrenal fatigue. Maybe you see some on there that you feel like, that feels like me. There are things you can do to support your adrenal glands that can help protect them while you're under a lot of stress. I'm going to talk to you about that. Some of those herbs that we talked about last time. Adrenal Balance is an adrenal support supplement that will help protect your adrenal glands. It's got ashwagandha, which is evidence-based adaptogenic herb that lowers our serum cortisol levels by over 30% in stressed individuals. So that can be helpful because blasting cortisol all day long has a very negative effect on our brain health. Rhodiola is an anti-fatigue effect that increases mental performance and concentration. And then chronic stress will also deplete our B vitamins. So in Adrenal Balance, it also has some added B vitamins that are protective for our adrenal health. And then cordyceps is a highly regarded adaptogenic mushroom. And I don't know if you've heard adaptogens, if that's a new term for you, but adaptogens is a classification of herbs that support our body's stress responses, basically, help you adapt to stress. And cordyceps is an adaptogenic mushroom that supports the adrenal glands and helps the body manage stress, boosts our energy levels, and particularly in cases of adrenal fatigue or stress-induced exhaustion. There are times where I'll get a twitch in my right eye that like drives me nuts, and that's usually how I know that my adrenals, for me, that my adrenals need more support.
Wow.
Within 2 days of taking Adrenal Balance, every time the twitch will go away, and then I'll just take it for that month. Or if you know, like, hey, this is a really stressful time, supporting your adrenal glands can be helpful. Because if your adrenal glands start crashing, it could also lead to issues with things like your thyroid, which we know there's a connection with your thyroid health and your mental health as well. So it's all connected in that way. We also carry a new supplement by Kingdom Health Systems, KHS. And this one is specifically for memory help if you're looking for that. And it has some of the same things that the Adrenal Balance has. So it's got a specific ashwagandha that's very absorbable for healthy stress response and cognitive clarity. And then it has fermented turmeric, ginger, and galangal, which is in the ginger family. And that's been shown to support healthy neuroinflammatory responses. So we talked about dementia being a cause from a high, inflammation for long periods of time, and this has some protection for that. So maybe if you feel like your memory's going, this is one you want to try. And then with glyphosate, I have a lot of problems with glyphosate. I feel like we talk about it almost every workshop because we just did spring cleaning where we talked about toxins we're being exposed to. We hit glyphosate. When we talked about heart health, we talked about it. We talked about metabolism. We talked about glyphosate. It's a bad one. But there was a 2000 study that asserted that glyphosate, which is the active ingredients in Roundup, an herbicide, they had put out a study, and sorry, let me see if I can explain this quickly. In 2000, there was a study that came out that said absolutely glyphosate does not cause cancer, and then they ended up having to retract it because they found out that Monsanto, the makers of glyphosate, actually were the ones that had hired the researchers, and they found email links where they were telling them, like, here's what we want you to say in the study. This kind of stuff just like makes me so angry, especially when it comes to like science and how sometimes you can't even trust what you're seeing that's out there. The investigation found evidence that Monsanto employees helped draft the paper and likely paid the authors. And there have been case studies in court where glyphosate has been held liable for causing cancers. It's very toxic to our body. I think this chart is really interesting because what you see over here is deaths per 100,000 from senile dementia. And then they're plotting it against glyphosate use on corn and soy. And if the trend line had continued here, it would follow that green line. But what happened around 1990 was the production of glyphosate and spraying it on everything, all the crops. If you get anything that is a grain product that has wheat in it, you're getting glyphosate exposure. So they, even though wheat is not a genetically modified product, and the reason why I say that is that the genetically modified foods are grown in a way that they can handle glyphosate, high amounts of glyphosate, without injuring the food that you're going to eat, but we get all the residue on there. So GMO crops particularly use high amounts of glyphosate, but wheat, even though it's not GMO, gets sprayed with glyphosate to dry it out and make it easy to harvest it at the end. And then, so any of the products that, like Cheerios, they tested Cheerios and they were really high amounts of glyphosate that were found in them. Any packaged processed grain products, I'm assuming I'm getting glyphosate if I eat that, unless you get organic products where that means they did not use glyphosate on those wheat, organic wheat. So it's another reason for choosing organic. But if it had stayed, it should have followed that trend line. But right about here is where we started putting glyphosate on all our crops and increasing our GMO crops, and then we see where the where that chart went. It really followed the glyphosate application of how much we've been using it. Over here, this is a correlation also between children with autism and glyphosate applications. Because of the neurotoxicity of glyphosate, people are putting things together. Well, maybe around the 90s was where autism cases start to really rise. Maybe this is part of that puzzle of things, of this perfect storm that have resulted in now 1 in 46 boys being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, where it was 1 in 10,000 in 1983 when I was born. 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 46 is not an improvement in diagnosis. This is a epidemic of neurological issues that are affecting everyone, very old as well as the very young.
Are they still legal or whatever to
Yes.
have grains that have this,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
treat it with
They do it all the time.
Yes.
They
crop
sell it at the
stuff,
store.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also go buy it and use it in your yard if you want to. I would not recommend
Roundup,
it.
I know,
but
but that Roundup stuff.
Public awareness, I think the more the public knows that that's the only way they're gonna change,
Yep.
stop buying it.
I agree.
Yeah.
This is just an example of why buying organic can really matter.
Yeah.
So, hummus, the average level of glyphosate in hummus was 65, where the average level of glyphosate for conventional hummus was 296.
Wow.
With granola, there's no detectable in organic granola. The level was 298 in the non-organic. Oats, non-detectable for organic, pretty high amount in the conventional cereal. Snack bars, none in the organic. 318 on the snack bars on that one.
What about vegetables, raw vegetables? Could you